I didn't know what to do with my hands when she walked in. That's the first thing I remember, the stupid awareness of my hands. One on the wrench, one on the counter, both pretending to have a purpose. The garage smelled like oil and rain, that metallic dampness that sticks to your clothes. It was a slow Wednesday, nothing but the sound of a radio murmuring old songs in the corner. Then she stepped inside, carrying an umbrella like she wasn't sure whether to leave or defend herself with it. "Is Daniel here?" she asked. Her voice had a calmness that didn't match the weather. "He's out for lunch," I said too quickly. "You can wait if you want." She nodded, looking around. Her hair was still damp, strands dark against her cheek. She didn't seem like the type to be here. Expensive coat, quiet posture, eyes that noticed things she wouldn't mention out loud. I pretended to keep working on the old Honda, but I could feel her watching. Not in a way that made me nervous, more like she was trying to place me. Like I reminded her of someone she hadn't seen in a while. He knew here," she said after a moment. "Couple months. Daniel always finds the quiet ones," she said, a small curve at the corner of her mouth. "You look like you think too much." I didn't know how to answer that. She didn't seem to expect me to. Her name was Elena. I found that out when Daniel came back and greeted her with a kind of reverence. She was a client, apparently. Regular. Something about her car being vintage and temperamental. I just stood there, pretending to wipe grease off my hands while trying not to stare too long. When she left, she thanked me for letting her wait. It was just a polite thing to say, but her eyes lingered a moment longer than they needed to. Long enough for me to notice the fine lines around them, and the faint scent of something, cedar, maybe, that stayed after she was gone. She came back 2 weeks later. This time, Daniel wasn't around. I told myself to act normal. She handed me her keys, fingers brushing my palm. Nothing intentional, just static between strangers. But it stayed. "I think it's making a noise again," she said. "Probably just me imagining things." Her tone was casual, but her eyes weren't. They held that same unreadable steadiness, like she was testing what silence could do between two people. I crouched by the hood, pretending to inspect the engine, though I couldn't have told you what part one was looking at. I was too aware of her presence beside me, the soft sound of her breath, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear and leaned a little closer, as if curious. She asked what I did when I wasn't here. I said I worked part-time at night, studied a bit, nothing impressive. She nodded like she understood more than I was saying. "Keep your hands busy," she said quietly. "That's a good habit." I almost asked her what she meant, but she was already turning away. The rain started again before she left. She paused at the door, looking out through the glass, her reflection caught beside mine. "You should get inside," I said. "It'll pour in a minute." She looked back at me, half smiling, not flirtatious, just knowing. "You sound older when you say things like that." She left without an umbrella this time. I watched her cross the street until she disappeared behind the row of trees, the wet pavement shining beneath her steps. That night, I kept thinking about her voice, the way she said older, as if it wasn't an insult. As if she saw something in me I didn't know how to name yet. And I still don't know why, but I left the wrench right where she'd been standing. Didn't move it for days. It was almost closing time when she showed up again. The air was heavy with the smell of rubber and rain-soaked dust. I was sweeping the floor, trying to beat the silence, when her car rolled up, headlights cutting through the dim shop like a secret no one was supposed to see. "Sorry," she said as she stepped out. "I know it's late. It just wouldn't start again." Her voice was calm, but her eyes weren't. She looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with the time of day. "It's fine," I said, setting the broom aside. "You're lucky I hadn't locked up yet." She smiled faintly, polite, grateful, but also distant. That kind of distance that says I've learned not to expect much help. I opened the hood and leaned in, pretending to diagnose something complicated. Really, I was buying time, trying to understand why she always carried herself like she was holding back a storm no one else could see. While I worked, she stayed close, arms folded. Her phone buzzed once in her coat pocket. She looked at it, but didn't answer. Just turned the screen face down on the counter. "Bad day?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. "Just a long one." That's when I noticed her hands, fingers tapping against her arm, slow and deliberate. like she was counting something only she could hear. Her nails were chipped at the edges. Expensive polish, but neglected. You can sit if you want, I said. It might take a bit. I'd rather stand, she said. Then softer. If I sit, I'll stop moving. And if I stop moving, I'll think. I nodded, pretending to understand. But something in her tone made me stop what I was doing. I looked up, and for the first time, she wasn't guarded. Just there. There was a quietness between us, the kind that hums right before something shifts. I wiped my hands on a rag and leaned against the counter. You know, it's not the battery. It's the starter motor. She tilted her head. And that's bad. Not really. Just needs patience. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Then maybe it's not the only thing in this room that does. She said it without looking at me. But the air changed. For a second, she seemed to regret it. Her shoulders stiffened, eyes falling to the ground. I wanted to say something, but the words caught. She broke the silence first. You remind me of someone I used to know, she said. He used to fix things too. Did he stop? Her laugh came out thin, almost a sigh. Eventually, everything stops. The rain started again, soft, steady. I could see her reflection in the window, her face caught between exhaustion and composure. When the car finally turned over, she exhaled like she hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. Thank you, she said. Then, quieter, you're easy to talk to. That's dangerous. Before I could reply, she stepped out into the rain, not even glancing back. I watched her go, feeling the weight of something I didn't understand settle in my chest, the kind that starts quiet, but doesn't stay that way. The storm started earlier than the forecast said. By the time I closed the garage, thunder had already rolled over the town like someone dragging furniture across the sky. The streets outside glistened with that cold, restless shine rain always brings. Elena's car sat in the corner, waiting on a part that hadn't arrived yet. She'd come to pick up some paperwork, she said. Just 5 minutes. That was an hour ago. We sat in the tiny break room, two mismatched mugs of instant coffee between us, the hum of the vending machine filling the silence. I'd offered to drive her home when the rain got worse, but she'd just smiled, saying, I like storms. They make everything honest. She wasn't wrong. The light flickered once. She glanced up at the ceiling, then back at me. How old are you again? She asked suddenly. 24. She nodded, tracing the rim of her cup. I would have guessed younger. You say that like it's an insult. Not an insult, she said. Just, you still look at people like they can surprise you. Her tone wasn't teasing, more like envy wrapped in apology. For a while, we just listened to the rain. I caught myself studying her. The way her hair had dried unevenly, how her fingers played absently with the chain around her neck. She wasn't wearing her ring today. I tried not to notice that. She leaned back, sighing. I was supposed to have dinner tonight. With someone special? A small smile. Once upon a time. But I canceled. Something flickered across her face. Not regret. Exactly, but something close. She looked tired again, in that quiet, private way that comes after pretending all day. I wanted to ask why, but I didn't. I just said, he must have been an idiot. She laughed softly, shaking her head. No, just patient. Too patient, maybe. Then her phone lit up on the table. The name on the screen glowed like a warning. She stared at it, not moving to answer. The call rang out. Then another came. You can take it, I said, though I didn't mean it. She turned the phone face down again. Not tonight. The sound of rain filled the pause. Something felt suspended, like the moment before touching something you're not supposed to. She stood, moved to the window, and crossed her arms. You ever feel like you're standing in the wrong life? Her reflection met mine in the glass. For a second, the whole room felt smaller. Every day, I said quietly. She turned, and for the first time, she didn't look away. The distance between us wasn't much, a few steps, maybe less, but it felt like standing at the edge of something neither of us had the right to name. I could hear her breath, see the pulse in her throat. Her hand brushed mine when she reached for her coat. Not an accident, not quite intentional, either. I should go, she whispered. I didn't move. Yeah. She looked up at me one last time, something unspoken trembling between us, then stepped back. The door opened with a rush of cold air, her perfume trailing behind her like a question I wasn't ready to answer. She came by on a Sunday, no appointment, no pretext. The shop was closed, half the lights off, the world outside suspended in that gray stillness between afternoon and evening. I was sitting on the floor, sorting tools, when I saw her silhouette through the rain-speckled glass. She didn't knock, just waited, like she wasn't sure if she should come in. When I opened the door, she said, "I didn't mean to interrupt." "You didn't," I said. "I was just existing." Her lips curved, tired. "That sounds exhausting." Inside, the silence grew thick. No machines, no customers, just the sound of dripping water somewhere near the back and the faint hum of the old clock on the wall. She stood by the counter, fingers tracing the edge. "You ever notice how places feel different when they're empty?" I nodded, like they finally get to breathe. She smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why I came." Something inside me tightened, that quiet, dangerous recognition of someone trying to escape something invisible. "You okay?" I asked. She looked at me for a long time before answering. "I don't know anymore." Her honesty hit harder than I expected. She wasn't someone who admitted not knowing. Not her. I sat on the stool beside her, keeping enough space between us that it almost hurt. "You said you canceled a dinner," I said softly. "Was it something that mattered?" Her laugh came out small, hollow. "It used to. You plan things when you believe there's still time. Then one day, you realize time isn't a guest anymore. It's the one leaving." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. She turned toward me, eyes searching. "What are we doing?" The words came out fragile, half whisper, but it was the first time she'd said we. I met her gaze. "I don't know." "Then say something honest," she said. "Something that doesn't sound polite." I took a breath, feeling my chest tighten. "When you're here, I forget how old I am. And when you leave, I remember too much." Her expression didn't change at first, just her eyes, softening and darkening all at once. She looked away, blinking fast. "That's not fair," she murmured. "You don't know what it cost me to stay here." "I'm not asking you to." "I know." She pressed her palms flat on the counter, grounding herself. "That's what makes it worse. We stayed there like that, two people too close to step back, too scared to move forward. The air hummed with things we didn't have language for." She finally whispered, "You remind me that I could still want something. And that terrifies me." I wanted to reach for her, not to touch, just to stop her words from shaking. But she stepped back, eyes glistening in the dim light. "I shouldn't have come," she said, voice breaking on the last word. Then she turned and left, leaving the door half open, letting the rain and silence pour in behind her. And for the first time, the quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt like punishment. For almost a week, she didn't come by. I told myself I didn't notice, that work was busy, that I had things to do, but her absence sat like a shadow in every quiet moment. Even the radio sounded lonelier. Then, one evening, she showed up again. No warning, no call, just that familiar car pulling up as the sun slid behind the buildings. She stepped out slower this time, wearing no makeup, her hair pinned back like she hadn't planned to be seen. I met her halfway, already feeling that strange ache in my chest I didn't have a name for. "Hey," I said, trying for casual. "Hey," she echoed, voice hoarse. I didn't come for the car. Something in her tone made me stop breathing for a second. Inside, she walked to the same stool she always used and sat, clasping her hands tightly together. The silence between us wasn't awkward now. It was loaded. "I have something to tell you," she said finally. I nodded, though I didn't trust my voice. She pulled a small folded photograph from her coat pocket, the edges worn, the paper soft from being touched too many times. She laid it on the counter between us. It was a man, maybe late 30s, smiling, holding a cup of coffee in what looked like this very shop. "He used to work here," she said. "Years ago, before Daniel took over." I looked closer. The resemblance hit before I could stop it. The man's eyes, his build, the same smudge of grease near his collar. "You look like him," she said quietly. "You even laugh like he did." I waited. She didn't look up. "His name was Michael," she continued. "We were." She hesitated, searching for the right word. "Close. And then one morning, he didn't wake up. Heart. No warning. I didn't know what to say. My hands found the edge of the counter, holding on to something solid. I told myself I'd never come back here, she whispered. But then Daniel hired you. And the first time I heard your voice, I couldn't leave. The storm outside had started again. Soft rain against the windows, steady and merciless. She finally looked at me. Her eyes weren't teary. They were steady, as if she'd run out of ways to hide. I think I came back to finish a goodbye I never said. Something inside me shifted. All this time, I thought we were building something new, unspoken but ours. But now it felt like I'd been walking through someone else's memory, a shadow she couldn't let go of. I swallowed. So what am I then? Her lips trembled. The echo that answered back. She stood, sliding the photo toward me. Keep it, she said. Maybe it'll help you understand why I couldn't stay. Then she left. No hesitation, no backward glance. When the door shut, the photo still lay beneath my palm. Her words kept circling, quiet but relentless, the echo that answered back. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which one of us was haunting the other. I didn't see her for almost a month after that night. The photograph stayed tucked in the top drawer beneath a mess of bolts and receipts. I told myself I'd return it, but some part of me knew I wouldn't. Her handwriting was faint on the back. For Michael. The year everything almost worked. I stopped checking the clock at closing. I stopped expecting her shadow on the glass. The place felt wrong without her in it. Too neat, too quiet, too obedient. Then, one Thursday, I found her waiting outside when I came back from lunch. She wasn't dressed like before. No coat, no practiced calm. Just jeans, a sweater, hair undone. She looked like someone who'd been thinking too much. You're still here, she said softly. Couldn't find a reason to leave. Her smile barely held. That makes one of us. Inside, we didn't talk at first. She stood near the same stool, running her hand along the counter like she was feeling for something familiar. I thought you weren't coming back, I said. I wasn't, she replied. But then I realized I was still listening for your voice in places you weren't. She took a slow breath. You weren't him. I know that. But you reminded me what it felt like to be seen again. Not pitted, not handled, just seen. I wanted to say something, but everything sounded smaller than what she deserved. I wasn't trying to replace him, I said finally. I know. She looked down, fingers tightening around the edge of the counter. That's what scared me. The air between us settled into a strange peace, the kind that follows after too much has been said and not enough can fix it. Outside, the sky was the color of steel. Rain again, light but steady. I reached for the mug I'd left on the workbench, offered it to her. It wasn't hot anymore, but she took it anyway. I kept thinking about that day, she said quietly. When I told you it terrified me to want something again. And now, she looked up at me. Really looked. And the answer was there long before she spoke. Now I'm tired of being terrified. Something inside me gave way. Not fireworks, not the rush of a movie moment, just a small, quiet surrender. I stepped closer, slow enough that she could have stopped me. She didn't. Our hands brushed, then stayed. Her skin was cool, trembling slightly. Neither of us said anything. We didn't need to. The silence had changed, no longer sharp, no longer full of restraint. Just stillness. She leaned in, not for a kiss, but enough that her forehead touched mine. A breath shared, not stolen. The kind of closeness that doesn't ask for permission because it already has it. When she finally pulled back, she whispered, maybe this is what healing looks like, quiet, messy, and late. I smiled barely. Late's still something. We stood there until the rain eased, both of us too afraid to move first. Because moving would mean the moment had passed. And when she finally turned to go, I didn't stop her. I just watched, knowing this time it wasn't an ending. Just the sound of something real, settling at last into silence. It's been 6 months since the last time she walked into the shop. Sometimes, late in the evening, when the light outside turns the color of old photographs, I still half expect to see her car pull up. The sound of the door, the faint scent of cedar, that quiet look that always said more than she ever allowed herself to say. But she doesn't come anymore. And I don't wait the same way I used to. That's the strange thing about love when it doesn't end in disaster or confession. It just changes shape. It stops being a question you ache to answer and becomes something you live with, quietly, like a scar that's long healed but still remembers the pain. I found her photo again last week, the one she left behind, the one of him. It was still folded in the same drawer, grease-stained and softened by time. For a moment, I almost put it away again. But then I left it on the counter. Let it breathe a little. I think that's what she taught me, that some things don't need fixing. Not everything broken wants to be whole again. Sometimes, it just wants to be seen, understood, held in memory without being repaired. Elena didn't disappear, not really. She lingers in small ways, in the way I pause before answering someone, in how I've learned to listen better, in how I don't rush silence anymore. She used to say storms made everything honest. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. A storm isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's just a reminder that calm means nothing if you've never been shaken. I heard she moved away, started a small design business up north. Daniel mentioned it in passing, like it was no big deal. But I caught myself smiling when I imagined her there. Probably still overworking, probably still pretending not to care as much as she does. And me? I'm still here. Still fixing what I can. Still leaving the wrench where she used to stand. Some people come into your life like chapters. Others feel like whole books that never finish. Pages you keep rereading because they changed something in the way you see yourself. She was both. If I'm honest, I don't think I ever stopped thinking about her, but not in the way that hurts anymore. It's quieter now, softer, like a light left on in another room, reminding you that you were once known in a way words could never manage. And that's enough. Because maybe love isn't about claiming someone. Maybe it's about learning how to stay open, even after they've gone. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?